Hi, this is July 16th, 2013. My name is Nikki Seward. I'm with Snug Harbor, and I'm providing this video at the request of some of my neighbors who could not make the meeting last week to look at the impacts from the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. All the documents, you can go to snugharbor.net and go to our Delta Water Wars page that has a whole bunch of information. But I'm going to try and summarize in 15 minutes what are the impacts from the Bay Delta Conservation Plan and other actions going on. And this applies to Steamboat Slough, Sutter Slough, Lower Sacramento River, Georgiana Slough, Minor Slough, and of course the islands like Ryer, Grand, Sutter, parts of Andros and Brannan. Anyway, let's start by the very big issue: reduced water flow. It's not just a Bay Delta Conservation Plan. There is the proposal for now it's up to 6,000 cubic feet per second of Sacramento River flow will be diverted over to the Yolo bypass, thereby bypassing this area of the North Delta. Basically, that 6,000 cubic feet of flow, instead of it being on Sutter and Steamboat and Lower Sacramento River as it normally is, it would be over in this area for a certain time in the winter months or other months if they decide it's beneficial, and that takes the water away from our area, which definitely has an impact to us on our waterways, and we'll go through what those impacts are. That's just the Yolo bypass. That is the stuff they're working on right now that has nothing to do with the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. That'll make it even worse. So this the bypass effects and all that were known in 2004. There was planning for flood protection, but they also did the modeling, and so this is not it's been known for a while. I want to show you one example of work that's being done on the Yolo bypass. They're making these new floodways from the Sacramento River over to the Yolo bypass, and the Yolo bypass would be flooded every single year, and whatever goes in the bypass would not flow on the Sacramento River by us. That would be normal. Okay, so let's look at some other people who talked about something like this. In 2004, actually in this one particular map was 2006. This is from Metropolitan Water District. If you enlarge the PDF that you can get to from my website, you will see that Metropolitan Water District had proposed using the shift channel and flows into the Yolo bypass area for water conveyance. He proposed water conveyance, and they proposed having intake and some sort of gate right there and a pump station. I noticed that there's construction work setting back the levees here to open up in here. It's going on right now. If you want to go take a drive, that's South River Road. Here's another Metropolitan Water District map from their website, and it shows intake again at the bottom of Ryer Island. But this time this is for North Bay Aqueduct. It's a 2010 map. Okay, so I want you to notice that it's not just about the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. What I didn't hear covered was that the changes to Folsom Dam and Folsom South Canal are going to divert the water from the Sacramento River watershed down here into the McComb River watershed. Therefore into the McCormick-Williamson tract, which has been, there's McCormick-Williamson tract. They say that's restoration, that's what they're billing it as, but this whole project used to be called NDIP, or North Delta Improvement Plan. It was part of the conveyance plans in CalFed in 2004. So now they're calling it restoration, but it actually conveys water, and there'll be some restoration along the way, but it actually takes water from the Sacramento River, puts it into the McCollum River system for export to other areas of the state. I actually approached Melinda Terry and North Delta Water Agency water experts because I was really concerned about this a couple years ago. I was concerned that how they were counting flow into the Sacramento River and out of. There's a little bit tricks they're pulling, and I was concerned there just isn't that much water. Of course, everybody realizes that, and that's no news, but the impact of all of this is really, really devastating to our area of the Delta. If you wanted to see the flow questions and all that stuff, you can go to the website. There's the references. I also wanted you to note, and I think I have to make this one a little bigger. Sorry. I have done a little video where I put together all the different projects that are going on north of the Delta, way up here, and you try and add up all of that, and there just isn't going to be any water flow left on the Sacramento River, and that doesn't even have, these things are not talked about in the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, these ones north of the Delta, so I don't even know if they're counting that reduction in water flow on us as well. Okay, so now I'm at one of the maps from the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, and what this does is it is looking at flows. If you go to the website, you'll find out that their maps kind of and what they project for flows don't make sense. The numbers don't add up or subtract correctly. Let's put it that way. There just isn't the water they're talking about. So I want to go to a map. You guys have probably seen it. This came from actually Carla Namath in 2009 or 2010 when there was that meeting at the Grand Island Mansion. And I'll make this one a little bit bigger, see it a little better. See if that helps. Okay. So what you see is this was their projections. They're saying this means that, I think I have to widen it a little bit more, sorry, so you can see there you go. You can see that our water flow, the red and the orange means our water flow and our water levels will go down and as much as 50%, and the blue and dark blue means water levels and fresh water increases. So look who gets the fresh water and look who loses the fresh water. Take it from the Sacramento River, put it into the McCollum system, send it down Old River, San Joaquin, and to the pumps. There you go. This area of the Delta, North Delta, actually benefits greatly because they get much fresher water. In the meantime, you see this lower Sacramento River and around Stockton, there's benefit as well in certain areas. It's kind of a no-brainer what they're saying. They want to take the water from the Sacramento River and put it in the San Joaquin River so it can be easier exported, and impacts to North Delta just are not really a true consideration with what they're doing. So I'm going to go on to the rest of these. Sorry, I got to get it. Okay, so now I'm going to, again, this is another one of those maps from Carla Namath with resources, and it shows the impacts and the positive impact for down here, even though the negative is so bad. So I wanted to look at, here's another, this is a regional impact map, and you can blow this up or increase the size of these PDFs and see where I got it at the links. Notice the Sacramento River. It goes off this way. You see the McCollum, the Sacramento River, as we know it, is eliminated in those regional water plans. Okay, so here's where we look at, again, as Melinda noted, the Bay Delta Conservation Plan actually says we're going to have 3 to 4 feet lower river level, water level. Steamboat Slough, Sutter Slough, the lower part of the Sacramento River, due to the exports, and that's 6,000 cubic feet per second of exports if they can build those new pumps along the Sacramento River. What if they do 9,000 cubic feet? There won't be any water left on below those export pumps. I show you here an example of one of our tide charts. It's for right now in July, and imagine if the minus tide, imagine if the high tide was non-existent. The minus tide would be what the high tide is under the new regime of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. So this is a minus tide right now. This actually is over by Justy's, and this was a March minus tide this year. It's way lower than we've ever seen it in this area, and so imagine this area being another 3 to 4 feet lower. This is a farmer's water intake pipe. Obviously, it can't be run even now. So what happens when you get the water level 3 to 4 feet lower? It means just no fresh water in that area. So I'm going to look at a couple other impacts really quickly. This is an example of, this is actually, we have a little bit of a sandy beach and now a little bit of a mud plain that almost goes out to our docks. Luckily, Snug Harbor kind of sits on this little bit of a shelf or a little bit of a cliff. It just goes straight off about to 10 feet right there, right around where those boats are. So losing 3 or 4 feet of water would be terrible, but we would still be there. We would have to replace our ramps. Our docks would survive. They wouldn't be sitting on mud, but our ramps wouldn't be long enough, and they may just sit on the mud and then therefore not really sit on the docks as they're supposed to. Other neighbors along Steamboat Slough may have to move out their pilings, move out their docks, and change their ramps if the Bay Delta Conservation Plan thing goes through, and if there's even enough water left to navigate on Steamboat and Sutter Slough. Anyway, here's another impact to look at. This is an aerial view of the Sacramento River this April, and you can see that this silting in that's happening because we're not getting enough water flows even now on the Sacramento River. The Tules and Agariodenza, or waterweed, captures a sediment that does flow out in winter, and then it creates more shoals or more sandbars, and it just gets worse and worse. I was on a houseboat with a bunch of other people, with photographers actually, and in April, and the houseboat, shallow draft houseboat, got stuck in basically almost the middle of the river, certainly at least more than 1/3 out. So that is an example how quickly it's starting to shoal with the low water flows we're already experiencing. Imagine when high tide is 4 feet lower than that. So, and here's just another picture. The Tules gather water weeds, which gather sediment, which makes the shoal even bigger, or it extends the land area out, which narrows the navigation waterway, and it's an ongoing process. Okay, so they knew that in 2005. Obviously, the Delta Protection Commission hired this Jane German group to do a new proposal for recreation in the Delta, and they propose that all of Sutter and part of Steamboat Slough become, non-motorized boating waterways. Well, is that because they really wanted non-motorized boating waterways, or is it because they knew that the Bay Delta Conservation Plan proposal to take the water out of the Sacramento River would suck it out of Steamboat and Sutter Slough in these areas, and these places would not be navigable anymore? That's what it appears if the plan goes through. Here's another map. This is the National Atlas. I just want you to realize that the federal government's very involved in this. It's not just the state, if you didn't know that. And this is their version of what the Sacramento River looks like. You'll see, if you wanted to see a series of wrong maps of the Delta that really show a pattern of erasing Sacramento River, you might want to see that. The National Atlas consistently does stuff like that. Anyway, there's lots of studies on the effects of sediment and how it builds up the center of the levees, or the center of the islands, but it also clogs channels and outlet works. I mean, clogging the channels. They know that the sediment and the tules are going to clog the channels. That's the plan, I suppose. And here's more of the studies on how fast does the sediment get captured by the tules. So now I'm going to go to one of the maps of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, and I think I'll try to enlarge this so you can maybe see. Well, you can't, but if you go to my PDF, you'll see this is a Bay Delta Conservation Plan. This is Appendix 5, and this is a map that shows different, they call it bench habitat analysis sites, and this is where they actually planted tules and extended out benches or these berms into the waterway to see how quickly they're going to capture sediment, and they're supposed to be for the fish. However, if you look at these, for example, the bench test on Ryer Island and the one right across from it on Grand Island, the tules look like the Gary Denza blocks the fish from being able to find shelter there, and the area is increasing so much, and that's what it looks like. The real test is, let's measure how fast they can get it to silt in that area. I'm just going to go on back. If you want to read that, you can. So this was recognized a couple years ago. I did a little sketch based on a 1880s old sketch, and this just trying to be humorous regarding a very sad situation, in that the water from Steamboat and Sacramento River, that's the capital without its dome, because it got shipped off to Southern California along with all the water. Okay, and I want you just notice that the navigation maps used to list all the marinas in the Delta, and now starting in 2006 they only list a few of them, and they're mostly South Delta. So what does NOAA know that we don't? And there's no explanation why they just kind of dropped a lot of us private marinas in the North Delta from that list, even though we exist. Okay, so transportation impact to North Delta economy and residents. The Bay Delta Conservation Plan, Chapter 19, talks about the temporary impacts to us, and temporary means 9 to 10 years or worse. And it doesn't even talk about the long-term impact. And the reality is, if we have that limited access for 9 to 10 years, that is the long term for us. There is no recuperating from that. For businesses, when nobody can get to you and your staff can't come and go, and we can't get our supplies, and the roads, they talk about, they meaning Bay Delta Conservation Plan, talks about how impacted the roads will be, and they only single out certain businesses in certain areas that'll be impacted, when the reality is any business within this circle here will be impacted negatively, because people simply won't be able to reach those businesses. And any recreational facility, do you normally plan to go and bring your boat or RV next to a really loud highway, or where there's trucks constantly coming and going? I don't think so. And so the fact that the Bay Delta Conservation Plan assumes that people would still want to recreate and boat with all that constant commotion is just ludicrous, as is the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. So note that the studies looking at the costs or impacts of communities from the Bay Delta Conservation Plan pretty much ignore the existence of places in the Delta. And if you ignore the existence of the commercial businesses, the marinas, RV parks, restaurants, commercial fishing, all that stuff, you can make the value seem, the impact or loss seem less. Well, they can't keep ignoring us. We're there. And so the valuations done by the Dreams Report and PPIC and those professors from UC Davis did not account for us commercial businesses, and therefore the Bay Delta Conservation Plan also ignored the impacts to us. I'm going to give you one example right here, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger so you can see it better. So this is a Bay Delta Conservation Plan map that I then did a screen print of. Let's center a little bit more. And you'll note that the plan puts little marks where there are marinas, but it doesn't label them. So I added these labels. And if you look in the Bay Delta Conservation Plan summary map of all the recreation facilities, it does not recognize Hidden Harbor, yet the written documentation talks about Hidden Harbor Marina. And the impacts to Hidden Harbor Marina are the same as the impacts to Snug Harbor, but they ignore the impacts to Snug Harbor. I'm going to show you a photo. Okay, so here's Snug Harbor, and right here, this is Steamboat Slough, and down here is Hidden Harbor, and then Rio Vista over here, and there's Mount Diablo, Grand Island, Ryer Island. Anyway, so impacts 4 miles away from Hidden Harbor, when the photo makes it look a little larger. So if this ferry, the Rio Vista ferry's down, and these roads are all clogged, or the waterways are clogged by barges throwing big wakes, messing up all of our docks, it's going to impact us in the same way it would impact Hidden Harbor. So this is just one example. We're not the only ones ignored. The impact that's ignored, there are a lot of businesses that are ignored. I want to show you. This is a Bay Delta Conservation Plan map showing the different kinds of recreation in the plan area, and these dots are different kinds of recreation. All of these will be impacted, let alone all the single homes and all the farms and all that. I think somebody should develop a map showing every single property, business, residence, farm, that any one of those that will be impacted. This will be full of dots, and everyone's going to be so negatively impacted by this traffic. And I do want to mention that it's a financial impact, it's a risk impact, it's there's just so much to it. If police and fire can't quickly get to respond, then that is a huge impact to especially residents, I'd say. Okay, so the transportation planning is supposed to be part of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. And note that the state of California has been doing serious transportation planning since around 2000, 2002. And you will see that their planning is for going around the Delta, not through the Delta. There's not a whole lot of planning for improvements of Highway 12 in reality. After all that's done, they'll leave us with broken roads, I guess. The Dreams 2 report does talk about putting extending Highway 160 on stilts like Highway 80 is, all the way up towards Elk Grove. But there's no off-ramps on that one if they actually do it. And there's no off-ramps on the Highway 12 and the Highway 4 if they put them up on stilts. And I've been told that they've decided that's too expensive, but that's still there, still online on the Dreams report, phase 2. So who knows what's going on. All I know is putting something through the Delta with no off-ramps therefore eliminates access to the Delta using those highways. Okay, so here's more planning maps, just so you know. There's been huge planning on transportation, but focus on access to the Delta they've focused on limiting access to Delta, not improving it. So I want you to look at, I'm going to enlarge this one a little bit, make sure that you go and read Melinda Terry's focus on the Delta. And this 17-page report that she did, I have just a couple of them highlighted here. I highlighted it, but I'm going to click on it. It is available online. I put it at my website is out, with her permission. You really need to take a look at the impacts, and because it's kind of different for each area, but it is devastating to everyone. that calls North Delta home or has a business or just loves the North Delta. And that's all so that more water can get exported to other areas of the state. Thank you for listening. I hope you attend the Bay Delta Conservation Plan meeting tomorrow, or at least send in comments in opposition to what they're proposing to do to us.